Hi, this is State Representative Randy Nix. I want to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and tell you to remember, Jesus is the reason for the season.
Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have on Christine Reed, License Coordinator from the City of LaGrange. Welcome, Christine, to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you know, Christine, I think you and I work closely together on a daily basis downstairs there. And, you know, I think I bug you a lot of times, phone calls, you got customers coming in, but it's an important part of our operation at the City of LaGrange. Tell us a little bit about, I know you're the License Coordinator, tell us a little bit about your role there.
Okay, I register all the new businesses that come into town. And make sure that they have their certificate or their business license. And I work with any businesses that come in and want to apply for alcohol license and anything like that. So we just make sure that all businesses register with the city. That's
right. And it's so important they realize, and you say register with the city, it's so important that they realize that they must be registered with the city. Because we're going to talk a little bit about some of the penalties and things that can happen if they are not registered. But you were talking about all business. Now, sometimes a person may say, well, you know, I just want to operate a small business out of my home. Do I need to be registered? Do we have things like that maybe happening in our city? And do they need to be registered, Christine?
Yes, we have what we call a home occupation registration, where if you're doing business in the city, that's in any ways that you do that, you are to register your business, whether at home or whatever. There's some rules and regulations about having a home occupation, but it's pretty general, and so it's painful. Just come in and register, and it's the same fee for whether you have a big business or little business. It's all the same.
Okay, all right. And of course, a lot of times people think, well, you know, and there are small ones that work in our community, and we need those small businesses as well as we need the larger business. So definitely we want them to be, you know, licensed and also legitimate. Now let me just ask, now I know that we're here in the month of December. Is there a time of year that becomes a little bit more busier for you, Christine, than others?
Yeah, this is a busy time because all the alcohol license, if your business sells alcohol in any way, your license are due. You have to December 31st to renew your business license. So yeah, we have all the restaurants and package stores and grocery stores, anyone that sells alcohol, their license are due.
Okay, very good. Now, and you're talking about restaurants and things like that. Let's just kind of dig into it a little bit, because some of the viewing audience may have or be considering opening up a business next year, 2013. But license information went out, I guess, about early November.
The renewal forms, yes, they went out. Yeah, I think I got them out. I got them out around the 15th. So you have, or even around the 1st. You know, you know that you have your renewal forms, and you can bring them in or mail them in or however. And it's just your alcohol license that are due. You can go ahead and pay your occupational tax, but we just need to make sure that your alcohol license are paid by the 31st. By the
31st, okay. All right, and we're talking, and let's just, I want to break it down just a little bit more, because we're talking about occupational, we're talking about alcohol, we're talking about beer, wine, and liquor. So there's like 4 different things that an individual or business need to concentrate on. Let's talk a little bit about the occupational just first of all. Talk about that for us, Christine.
Okay, that is just the registering your business. You just come in, it's normally $110, and that'll cover you, that's a calendar year from January to December 31st. And then renewals are due January 1st, but we do have a grace period, so you have up until March 31st to renew that business license. And that's where you'll report your employees and, you know, if you're still doing business, any updates that I need to know. And we do that this time of year, well, from December through March 31st.
Okay, very good. Now let's say a business, because I know that we're sitting now roughly, 4,000, I guess, renewal forms. Let's say a business was not considering going back into business in 2013. Should they notify you?
I would greatly appreciate it. That way I won't keep sending you forms or getting to the point where I have to start calling or anything like that. If you'll just send me, you can fax me something on your letterhead or something in there that states we're no longer operating. and I'll just close out your business. You know, we hate to see you go, but still, it would greatly help you, and then you wouldn't keep getting, you know, reminders that your taxes due.
Might even get a visit too.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, that does happen.
All right. So the occupational it basically is just the equivalent of a business license.
Right.
And we talked a little bit about the alcohol license, which are due end of this month.
That's correct.
Talk about the fee that's associated with the alcohol license.
Well, it depends on if you have a package store or if it's by consumption, like a restaurant where you drink it there, or you're a wholesaler. There's different prices on what is due. The package store, we have passed an ordinance where the liquor was $5,000, and we've divided that up so, you know, you can pay $2,500
right.
by the 31st, and then you have July 1st to pay the other half.
Okay.
So. But just depending on, you know, if you got a package or it's on premise or wholesale.
Okay.
You know, it depends on the cost.
Okay, very good. So, and then I think the alcohol being the most expensive, and I think the others are like roughly $280, I believe it is.
Well, beer and wine for on premise, which means on, you know, where you drink it there, is $270 each,
okay.
and package is $160
okay.
each. So.
All right. So just a minimal cost there.
Yeah.
Can get that one out.
Yeah,
Minimal cost for doing business in the city of LaGrange, right?
Right.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit, because I know that there are penalties when a business doesn't or doesn't get registered by a certain time. Talk about the penalties associated.
Well, if you haven't paid it by the due date, then there's a 10% that automatically goes in there, and then anything after that, it increases from 1.5%. You know, so, you know, every month it'll increase a little bit more and more. So, and we, you know, we'll work with you. Can't waive the fees, but, you know, if you let us know, you know, you still have a whole month to get this in, but if you let us know that, you know, it's going to be late, you still have to pay the fee, but, you know, at least we won't, like I said, we won't send that person out and, you know, interrupt your business and have to do any of that process that would have to hinder you operating.
Absolutely.
You know.
And it's a safety for the individuals and
Right.
also for us as a city, because they say, for example, someone came in and there was an incident at that location and they were not properly licensed.
Right.
You know, in the society that we live in, we want to protect the business as well as ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have a good reputation in your business, you know, the first person that, you know, tends to call is the Better Business Bureau, and they'll ask, you know, about your business, and I have to tell them, you know, if you're operating in the city or if you're not. So, you know, it's just good, you know, good thing for you
Absolutely.
to just keep your business up to date and, you know, keep us informed.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, and I know that, you know, the forms were mailed out back in November, and I know there's a couple of ways that they could get those back in to you. What's the most preferable way that you like to receive those, Christine?
Well, it doesn't really matter. At this point, we've got a new program, so it's not going to be quite as fast as we usually do. Have done it in the past, you know, because we're still learning some of the, and still has a little bugs in there. But if you know, if you don't mind bringing it in and leaving it, and then we can mail your certificates to you, or you can pick them up later that day or the next day, or you can email them, and then, you know, we can, when we get all the information in, I don't mind calling you to get a credit card information or anything like that. Mail in all your stuff, and I'll make sure I get all that, even if it's, as long as it's dated, you know, before the 31st. I could, you know, and which a lot of come in that last week of after Christmas, you know. I'll work with anybody, you know. I'll work with anyone, you know. You just got to inform me, but just give us a little time on this new program to get your certificates back to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I know most of the forms for the beer, wine, and liquor are on our website.
That's
the renewal forms are the only form that we don't have
That's
on the
correct.
website.
Yeah.
Correct?
You should have got one in the mail. If you don't, if you have not, and because of, hopefully I got all the new ones out, but we were in that process of transitioning to the new program, so hopefully I didn't miss anybody. But if you have not got your renewal, then regardless, it's still due the 31st. So you need to contact me.
Okay, give them a contact number, and also let's give them our website information so they can go there too, Christine.
Okay, the website is lagrangegeorgia.org, and you can go under community development and find our forms there under occupational tax. My phone number is 706-883-2054, and we have another just plain office number, 883-2060.
Okay, very good. And that's for renewals and also alcohol, or either for the occupational, they can go
That's
there
correct.
and find that information in reference to employees and stuff, information of that nature. All right. So again, we're talking about our occupational and business, which is equivalent to business license, and Christine is here talking about that, a license coordinator. Walk-ins, and I know you get a number of walk-ins now. And as you talked about a moment ago, we do have a new system. We just ask that they exercise a little patience there. Talk about the walk-in customers, Christine.
As long as you have all your paperwork, I try to give it to you. If you've called or anything like that, if you have a new business, there is a good size form packet of paperwork that has to be filled out, not just for the city, but for the other government entities that have to have their required paperwork done. If you have a new business, I need a fire safety inspection and a copy of your lease or proof of ownership of the building. So as long as you bring that all in, hopefully if we're not busy at that point, I can go ahead and do it right then, and should be able to get you in and out, probably within 20 minutes to 30 minutes. During this time, it may take a little bit, so if you don't mind waiting just a little bit, we can go ahead and process that, because it's just a daily thing. As long as I have all that information, there is forms that have to be notarized, and as long as you bring in your correct identification, me or Miss Alicia are notaries, so we can notarize your paperwork.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Christine. I know that the lines will kind of go out the door, I'm sure, and the phones will continue to ring off, but you all do a very good job there.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you very much for the job that you do, and I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas as well.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're back from City Week in just a moment.
Hi, this is State Representative Carl Von Epps. I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. May God continue to bless each of you.
Welcome back to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have on a guest from the LaGrange Fire Department. I have Public Information Officer, Lieutenant Chris Taylor. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Chris, I think it's been about a year since you and I got together, and we talked a little bit about holiday safety, didn't we?
Right, we did.
Absolutely. And you know what, Chris, I mean, the time just kind of goes by so quickly and stuff, but I want to help our viewing audience to understand a little bit more about holiday safety as we're entering into the Christmas time of the year, and people are gathering, they're cooking, and they're kind of maybe sometimes get a little, detained about various things. So we want to help them to have the very safe and happiest of holiday season that they can have.
Right.
But before we get started, tell us a little bit about your role as the Public Information Officer, if you don't mind, Chris.
Well, I've served as the Public Information Officer for the LaGrange Fire Department for about 6 years now.
Okay.
I'm also a company officer, so I'm in the field, so I do have a station.
Very good.
So I utilize those roles as needed, but I also help with coordinating educational programs and stuff in the community. So wherever I'm needed to fulfill an obligation, then that's pretty much what I do.
And you can be sometime a last minute guest too, can't you, Chris?
Yes, also a last minute guest.
I want to thank you very much for that as well, Chris. Well, Chris, it's always a pleasure to sit down with man, because and I tell this story I think every time, because people have to understand. I saw you as a kid growing up on Nelson Street. There, we lived down the street. You and your mom lived up the street, and used to ride your bicycle up and down the street.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness! So became a great citizen in our community. Well, I want to thank you very much for all that you do too.
Thank you.
Chris.
I appreciate that.
Well, let's just talk a little bit about some of the things that you have to help our citizens be safe during the Christmas holidays. And I know that during this time of the year, of course, people have the lights up. They have lights up on the trees inside the home. They may have real trees and things of that nature.
Right.
What are some safety tips that you can give them just talking about the home right now, inside the home? What are some things that you can share?
Well, when you talk about the holiday season and you talk about trees, A lot of times, people, they do go out and they get those real trees, and they use them for decorations in their homes. One of the things that they need to take in consideration so that their home is safe is that they get a tree that has all the green bristles on it, and not drying out and falling off, because that could be a potential hazard. So you want to get a good tree that's green and that's watered properly, and you want to continue to water that tree once you have it in your home. Trees need to be placed in places where they're away from heat sources such as heat vents and heating equipment and things of that nature. And they don't need to be put in places where they're blocking exits, because if a fire emergency occurs, or any type of emergency occurs where you got to get out quickly, the last thing you want to have is a Christmas tree standing in your way trying to get out.
Absolutely.
So the Christmas trees is very important, and also understanding the lighting and all the different types of decorations that are being used, because you want to have flame retardant decorations, and you also want to make sure that you don't place decorations in places where they're around heat sources.
Okay. Then you're talking about decoration, Chris. Now I know that we have when you go and shopping for you have indoor lights and outdoor lights.
Right.
Is there? I mean, can you actually use an outdoor light inside, or is it recommended?
Well, this is the thing. You have to look, because the governing agency for lights, they specify what lights can be used under different circumstances. So you want to make sure you abide by that. If it says indoor, use it only for indoor. If it says outdoor, use it only for outdoor. But there are some that has the capability of being used indoor and outdoor. So you want to make sure you read the specifications on the box, so that you know what to purchase and how to use it when you do purchase it.
Okay, very good. Because I put mine up and I pull them out. Sometimes you don't remember what box they came out of.
Right. Yeah.
And it kind of gets confusing there sometimes. Well, we're talking about safety inside the home and everything, but then all the other things that can kind of impact the safety is weather. And right now we're having a pretty unseasonably warm weather.
Yes.
But let's just talk about the other side. Talk about how weather can impact the holidays, Chris.
Well, weather can have a big impact, because we never know when the winter months come what type of winter season we're going to have. Like you said, we're already having warmer temperatures than normal in the month of December, but that can change, in a matter of days or weeks. So, people need to be mindful of that, and they need to take heed to making sure that they watch the weather, on a frequent basis, so that they'll understand what type of weather system we may have coming through, so that they can prepare for that as much as they can. Because we're subject to have snowstorms, we're subject to have ice storms, and we're subject to have a combination of both.
That's right.
And tornadoes can also happen in the winter months, depending on what the temperatures are like, and other factors that could cause a tornado to occur. So we got to be mindful of all of those things during the holidays when it comes to weather.
Okay, absolutely. And you were talking there in the home, and then a lot of times during the holiday season, if someone has lost a loved one, or have experienced that over years, talk about how that can impact their holidays as well.
Well, during the holiday season, and I want to specifically talk about situations where fires occur. If someone has a fire in their home, that is devastating not only to the family, but it's also devastating to the community. And especially if there's a loss of loved one in that situation. Well, if it happened years ago, then people always tend to maybe think about that when the holiday season rolls around. It's just one of those emotional memories that people have. But not only just fires, but anything else can happen, loss of loved one due to sickness. A situation where, unemployed, someone is unemployed and having, financial difficulties and things of that nature, or, someone who's actually sick themselves. There's all sorts of emotions that go on there during the holiday season, and a lot of time those emotions cause people to, maybe not be as proactive as they need to when it comes to safety. And then, of course, unfortunately, situations occur that, can cause injury or death to someone, or it can cause damage to their property or someone else's property.
Absolutely. So it's so important, and as we enter into the holiday season, the Christmas season particularly now, that we think about safety inside the home, outside the home,
Right.
and if we know someone that have lost a loved one around this time of the year,
Right.
Pay them a visit.
Exactly.
Share a meal with them or things of that nature, because it is a time of giving and reflecting.
Right, and I want to add that most of the time, the generation that is affected mostly when it comes to the holiday season is our senior adults.
That's right.
And those are the ones that we have to pay, even more closer attention to.
Absolutely, definitely. So, because talking about that, we want a couple of things that we want to talk about: natural preparedness for various events, and also I know that you have some website information that you want to give for various assistant programs.
Right.
If people have, let's talk a little bit about preparedness for various types of events. There, Chris.
Okay. Well, like I said earlier, there's all sorts of natural disasters and fire-related type situations that can occur during the holiday season, especially in our community. We talked about the snowstorms, the ice storms, fires. Those are the common ones that we can expect.
That's right.
But even with that, you still have to have some kind of preparation in place so that you make sure that your family is as safe as possible, regardless of what type of situation you may be faced with. In fire situation, you want to make sure you have an escape plan. That is very, very essential, because everybody needs to know what to do when a fire situation occurs. And that not only just means the family that's there, but if you got guests, your guests need to know what your fire escape plan is so that they can get out, because they're in an environment that they're not used to being in.
Absolutely.
And people who are in an environment that they're not used to being in, whether it be a family member or friends, or even in a hotel or on vacations, they need to take heed to the safety precautions that surround them, so that everybody will know what to do when something happens.
Absolutely, very good. Talk a little bit. I know that we have the FEMA and GEMA, and then of course we have the American Red Cross here, agencies here in our community. Talk a little bit about them and how they assist during various disasters.
Well, they have websites that have all sorts of information on there, from preparedness, what to do before an incident occurs, what to do during an incident, and what to do after an incident. So it's always good to go to those sites if you have access to the internet, and print those things off and keep them handy in your home, so that you can go to those and use them as reference points when a particular situation occurs. GEMA, you can go to the Georgia Emergency Management website, which is www.gema.gov, and get information on what to do in various emergency preparedness situations. They can also go to www.readygeorgia.gov. That's specifically for Georgia residents that can get it. They can get information. The United States Fire Administration, which is www.usfa.gov, FEMA.gov, and then of course the AmericanRedCross.org, where you can get just unlimited amounts of information about all sorts of things that can be happening in your community as well as in your state.
Okay, very good information there, Chris, that our viewing audience should take advantage of. Now, as we get ready to close out, and I know that we see sometimes during this time of year we might see an increase of number of house fires, and we've talked about that a little bit. Those can be attributed to cooking, the sources of heating. Talk about that a little bit for us, Chris.
Well, this time of the year, the number one causes of fires, pretty much during the holiday months, cooking always is at the top of the list. Okay, because there's more people. For one, is cooking during the holiday season. They preparing big meals and stuff for family and friends to come over and things of that nature. So there's a little bit more cooking going on, and when there's a little bit more cooking going on, sometimes people get a little careless.
That's right.
All right, so cooking is one of the number one causes. Another cause during the holiday season is heating and electrical equipment. Those items, we can't say enough about those. Heating equipment always need to be tested. They need to be checked, and they need to be placed in a safe place away from heating equipment. If you start having a problem with heating equipment or electrical equipment, you need to notify a certified electrician so that they can come out and possibly fix the problem. And then another contributing factor is discarded smoking materials. Now, I want to say that on the discarded smoking materials, that is the leading cause of home fire deaths in this country. Not only just during the holiday season, but across the board during the year. The #1 cause are home fire deaths because, you know, when you have people with discarded smoking materials, they leave ashes somewhere or a cigarette, and, you know, that can burn for hours before anybody even noticed that there's an actual fire.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, you know, it's always a pleasure to sit down with you, and I know that our viewing audience will take heed to the information that you've given. Always a wealth of information, and want to thank you very much for coming on and sharing it with us today.
Right.
And I do want to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas too, okay?
Thank you. And if I would add, make sure that everyone has a working smoke alarm in their home. Test it frequently and make sure it's near the sleeping area, in every bedroom, and every level of the home, because that is another important tool that people can have to protect themselves from fire and other types of incidents.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, thank you very much once again for coming on and sharing this
Thank you.
information. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're back for Once to the Week in just a moment.
Hi, this is State Senator Josh McCoon wishing you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.